What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 35 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Konu.
And we are back here again to keep you guys all updated on everything. Even though it's what I feel like was kind of a slow week, there's actually a lot to go over. So I really don't want to discuss anything else besides getting into it, so we're not wasting anybody's time. But first thing we have to discuss, because I feel like we've all keep looking back at this, but fantastic news for Tommy Lasorda. According to John Heyman, he is expected to be home in time for Christmas. They're aiming for the 23rd, so hopefully we hear something that he's home tomorrow. But I'm just glad to know he's healthy and hopefully out of the hospital tomorrow, not any later. Mookie Betts keeps doing Mookie Betts things. He was named the Sports Illustrated 2020 Player of the Year after helping bring home the Dodgers' first World Series in 32 years. So not a surprise there. He mentions it in his video. His job was basically to come here and help bring a World Series to LA, and he did it. That's what the entire point of him being traded. So he did his job, and he's gotten countless of awards for it, and he deserves every single one. Doing big things in Nashville back at home. He's helping out with the Players Pull Up Tour. It's with the Players Alliance. So basically they're heading around to all different cities around the US and helping pass out, whether it's canned food, clothes, goods, as well as helping provide baseball equipment to kids in their hometown. So Mookie was out there. It was actually really cool. MLB posted a video of him talking to a younger kid trying to put a glove on, and you could see Mookie was about to sign a ball for him, and then he saw how he put the glove on, and I couldn't hear what was being said, but you could see Mookie like grabbed his hand and adjust it differently in the glove so he would know how to actually have his hand in there correctly. And you could tell the kid was like in total shock that Mookie Betts is here helping him. So big fan of that. I love it, especially when the bigger name players are still out there doing their thing. They're not just doing the basic to get by. So lots of respect to Mookie for that. Another wedding, because they just keep happening for our Dodgers. So congratulations to Will, and I think it's Cara. It might be Kara. I apologize, one or the other, but the Smiths on their wedding, they got married. I think it was on Friday. So more rings for them. This is good news. I know some people are bitching because like the Dodgers are World Series champions, but I think let's be real here. We're all kind of very happy. But through the All-Star break, the Dodgers are only on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN once, and it will be against the Padres on April 25th. So really everyone's bitching like the Dodgers are World Series champions. They should have it. But in reality, do any of us actually care? Do we really want to listen to Sunday Night Baseball? I mean, I'm sure some
Fair
fans
enough.
do.
When
But
I first saw it, I was one of those thinking, why the fuck do they only have one game? And then I was like, oh, wait, that means you don't have to listen to A-Rod or Mendoza or them, so this is fine.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm all for it. I cannot stand ESPN. Besides, I feel like they don't ever talk about the game. They randomly bring players from other teams on and talk to them.
The
I'll
Matt
never
Chapman
forget
game?
that thing pissed me off, and I felt bad because like I like Matt Chapman, and he was probably put in a really awkward position that was like, "Hey, can you come on?" And then they start asking him these dumb questions, and then everyone gets mad at him in ESPN, and it's like it wasn't Chapman's fault, but yeah, that sucks. They need to stop doing that. I don't think anyone actually enjoys that. Elliot Soto, we've got another minor league deal. So this is, again, it's the typical Andrew Friedman minor league deal. Some people say maybe the new Chris Taylor. I'm not going to get my hopes up with that. He is 31, and he is an infielder who has spent 11 years in the minors. However, he did make his MLB debut this year, and he got his first big league hit against the Dodgers. So I would not be surprised if we see him out there with like a spring training invite, getting time. But my guess is that's just more minor league depth. And since we are on minor league depth, Tim Federowicz, however you say that, FedEx, we're going to go with that because it's easier. He actually announced on Twitter that he's back with the Dodgers last week. Again, I don't take any of that more than just minor league depth. If there's an injury or if a player gets called up or if there's a trade and they need someone at the AAA level, I kind of assume that's basically what he's there for. But with that said, now let's get into a little bit of the more important things. Friedman's priorities. I'm going to have you start with this one, and then I'll kind of follow up on where you go from there.
So the two main things that Friedman was prioritizing is a right-handed bat and then a bullpen piece they are confident in. If this is the case, then the Dodgers obviously have a lot of options, especially for the right-handed bat. I'm currently working on some articles on Dodger Yard that highlight some of the free agent options as well as trade options for a right-handed bat. I did write an article about South Korean star Hong Sung Kim. Another option I'm very intrigued by is Marcell Ozuna. Now, if the Dodgers or if the DH does come back to the NL, I think that would be something that the Dodgers should really look into. Um, and then another one for me was Marcus Simeon. I'm doubling down on him. I get he's been below average on offense. There was also another player the Dodgers signed who was below average except for 1 year, and he goes by the name of AJ Pollock. In his 2 years here, he's been well above average offensively. So it's hard for me to say that Simeon can't do what AJ Pollock is doing. Another trade target that I've come around a lot on, and we talked about it last week, was Chris Bryant. There are definitely injury questions for sure, but after doing some research, I think he's my favorite option. I was clearly downplaying his abilities. I was completely wrong about him. When he's healthy, he's a fantastic hitter, better than Arenado by far too, and he's probably cheaper than Arenado as
my
well.
question, yeah, probably. My question for Simeon is, my guess is that a filler piece just until we see someone like, is that your thoughts? Like a filler piece till we see someone like Cody Hosey?
Just for 2 years
So
until
I think
Hosey or something's ready.
okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Plus, he
So
only wants to take a short deal anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, that would work for the Dodgers if because Friedman has mentioned preparing for Justin Turner to leave. At the end of the day, the Dodgers could do anything to bring Turner back, but like Robert said, it's a two-way street. There is no guarantee Turner's coming back. They cannot make him come back no matter how bad. It has to work on both sides. So them having to prepare for that, Simeon would be a good fit to just get. Does he play third base or is he?
He's a shortstop, but before he played third and second.
Okay, so he is capable of playing there. And so I would get that. It'd be a cheap option. It would allow them to extend Seager, spend the money on him, figure out what they want to do with Buehler and Bellinger in another year after that, and then bring Hosey up following that. So I do see that. For my right-handed bat, I said obviously outside of Turner, for pretending he's not coming back, because if he does, I don't know how many other right-handed bats they'd really look for. Ozuna is interesting to me, but like you said, that's only if the DH comes around. I don't think there's a spot for him defensively. He's just not very good there. At least I don't think he is. And then of course my thought goes to LeMahieu, which just is unlikely. That's not going to happen. And then like you mentioned, Arenado or the Bryant trade, and then Kim. So I had a little bit of a hard time with this. I do feel like Arenado, Kim, and Bryant, they kill two birds with one stone. You get your right-handed bat and your third baseman. So they could go either direction. The only issue that I run into with, again, Arenado and is mostly the money and what that would mean for Seager. Who knows what Bryant's looking for? I mean, I kind of feel like he's gotten a lot of disrespect lately because of his injuries and having a rough year. So,
my apologies.
Not even just from you, from everybody, media, everyone. And so part of me is wondering if he wants even a short-term deal to kind of bet on himself and maybe do something for a year or two. And like that, I would be totally fine with that, because then we're not risking Seager long-term. You wait for Hosey to come up. You can focus on Buehler and Bellinger. I also know they're worrying about a bullpen piece that they can rely on, because I just don't think Kenley Jansen's going to be that guy for the Dodgers anymore. I don't think they will publicly announce that. I just think we're going to see it happen with the season. They might do the nice thing and like let him start there the beginning of the season, but I don't see it sticking. I want Liam Hendricks, but if he's really stuck on that 4-year deal, I don't know if that's going to happen for the Dodgers. That's a lot for a relief pitcher just to begin with. And then, so my mind goes to Brad Hand, that maybe they go that route. Indians didn't want to pick up his option for $10 million. So I'm sure they could get him for not too much money, maybe a year or two. Cause again, he was another guy. He actually had a good season, but again, I'm of the idea that I would not be surprised to see a lot of players from 2020 take a 1-year deal, wait for the market to rebuild itself next year, see where free agency's at, wait until the new CBA has been discussed before signing some long-term deal after next season. So if a lot of these guys are wanting to do 1-year deals, at that point, I would just want the Dodgers to start throwing contracts at them if they fit and they're in our needs, because it's 1 year that they're going to have to take the hit on luxury tax. So I don't really care.
Yeah, so my thinking was as far as pitchers goes, there's no better option than Liam Hendricks, especially in the last 2 years. He's been stellar in late inning situations, and while the rest of his team was folding against the Astros, he was the only one out there really battling and shutting them down. A little side note that I found interesting was since I'm talking about Liam Hendricks, in one of those MLB trade rumors live chats, a question was posed: who's more likely to be a Dodger, Hendricks or Bauer? The person running the chat obviously said Hendricks, but he said if Bauer is serious about taking a short deal, 1-2 years, then the Dodgers will gladly sign both.
That I 100% could see. Yeah, I think the weirdest thing with the whole Bauer situation, which we'll get into in a little bit, is nobody actually knows if he's sticking to that 1 year deal, it sounds like. Um, so of course that makes it a little bit more difficult on the Dodgers. Like you could absolutely sign Bauer 1 year, 35, 40 million, whatever it is, whatever they feel it takes to get him here, if that's what they want. Um, but I mean, like I said, I'm all for those type of contracts right now. I don't think Hendricks will take anything like that because he just had a fantastic year. I don't know if I see the Dodgers going 4 years, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I know you had some interest. I mean, the Dodgers have interest, but you had some interest as well in Ryan. Is it Stanek? Stanek?
Stanek. But
Yeah.
before I get to that, I want to say Trevor Rosenthal could also be another
Oh,
interesting idea for
yeah.
the Dodgers, who I see
I'm
some
all
people
for.
that they really like him.
I'm all for Dodgers like fixing pitcher type stuff. Any guy that like once had it,
Well,
dependent on
Rosenthal was
age.
good like the last few years, I think.
Yeah, dependent on age and if it was any type of injury, depending on that type of injury, I do think for the most part, pitchers can refind it. They have that talent. Most guys are not just 1 year wonders that it happened once and they can never throw like that again. So I would
Yeah.
be totally fine with the Dodgers kind of taking a bet on that and going 1 year and seeing what happens.
So you mentioned Ryan Stanek. He was non-tendered by the Marlins. He's had one good year and half of a good year, so 1.5 good years in 2018 and half of 2019 before he got traded to the Marlins, and he struggled there since. One thing I noticed is when he was really good in 18 and part of 19, he was strictly a four-seam slider pitcher. And then when he got to the Marlins, he started throwing a split a whole lot more, and he struggled ever since. So if the Dodgers sign him, my guess is they probably go back to the four seam and slider combination because that worked for him in Tampa. And the Dodgers and Tampa kind of go hand in hand at this point just because of Andrew Friedman, and they both are on the same wave philosophy wise. So Ryan Stanek is definitely another reclamation project, but he's only 29 and his fastball sits in the mid to upper 90s. So I think he'd definitely be worth a look for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and this might be a horrible mindset to have, but I've kind of already said it once. At this point, we've won our World Series. Like, I'm fine with taking any type of risk it means because, like, I don't have that anxiety in me anymore. That's like, you guys have to go win, get everything. So, like, I'm okay with taking these. And if they bite them in the ass for a couple months, it is what it is. I think the team is so talented that it probably won't matter if they take a bet on someone and it doesn't pan out. So, they seem to be interested in basically any type of pitcher. They always are. So we will keep an ear out for that. I know we have Make the Case next, and I want to get into that. However, I think we might be on that for a while. So I'm going to if you're good with going into your prospects, and then we'll go into that one.
Okay. So last week, Fangraphs had like a breakdown of the Dodgers 47, the top 47 prospects. And there's three interesting things that I saw. So Fangraphs is super high on Michael Busch. They already think he's the Dodgers' third best prospect. Um, they think he's a legit major league hitter right now. The problem is they don't know where to put him defensively. He plays second. He played first in left field in college. So they actually think that he could be the Dodgers' starting left fielder in 2021. I know we talked about moving Gavin Lux to left field, but he's more valuable at second. Plus, he can actually handle the position glove-wise. It's the throwing and the yips that remain his issue. Another thing that I was very intrigued by was Ryan Pepio, who I believe we saw at Dodgers summer camp in a game or two. Fangraphs get high on him. So Pepio gets a lot of spin on his changeup, and the Dodgers are working with him to harness that and get it similar to Devin Williams of the Brewers, who has the best changeup in baseball. So if he can get anywhere close to that, that would be amazing. And then the last thing is Clayton Beater. They think he right now has ready to make legit late inning bullpen stuff. If the Dodgers wanted to move him there, then he would definitely be on the major league roster in 2021. However, the Dodgers, as they should, are trying him as a starter. But for Fangraphs, they see the mid 90s late fastball with a late life four seam, and his slider and curve play a little bit better in the bullpen in the long term.
Yeah, so you love those prospects. I have the article saved. I'm going to be honest, I haven't read it yet, but I do have it saved to read. As for this next part, we had mentioned, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we wanted to do a make the case kind of segment where we pick a free agent and talk about it. And we have to talk about Trevor Bauer because Dodgers talk about him, Dodger fans talk about him. He's easily the biggest free agent out there just because of who he is, the type of season he had, winning a Cy Young, all of that kind of stuff. I kind of feel like we have to do the for first, and then I can kind of rebuttal with the against. But I have a feeling this is going to be a lot more conversational. So it might just be kind of back and forth as we go because I think there's a lot to touch on with Bauer. And I have to say this first because I am totally anti against stuff like this. I do not ever want to be one of those fans that ignores a player's talent based on the type of person he is. I have no problem saying if I think a player is a shitty human. However, if I don't like a player, no matter my opinions on him, I'm not going to say a player sucks just because I don't like him. So I need to get that out there. I don't like it when fans do that. Fans have always done it with Bumgarner. I can't stand Bumgarner, but to say he's an awful pitcher and never has been good, just to me, I don't want to do stuff like that. So I'm going to talk to you about not his personality so much because I know that's what everyone's going to think, but we'll go over these numbers. So give me your 4 and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so it's going to be a long one, guys. Trevor Bauer became a full-time pitcher in 2014. His first few years definitely was a struggle. He marginally got better, but it still wasn't all that great. So in the first half of his career so far, he was a completely different pitcher than he is now. So in the first 4 years, he was strictly four-seam, sinker, curve, and changeup. In the last 3 years, when he's been actually really good, he's been four-seam, cutter, curve, and slider. Now, he's changed his pitch mix, and he's been better because of it. Now, before changing his pitch mix, he had an ERA of over 4. Since changing it, his ERA has been 2.83. But as a whole, in his 7 years as a full-time starter, the league average ERA has been 4.20. His has been 3.65. That's getting close to almost a full run better. Now, Bauer's career ERA is 3.9 when you count his other 28 to 30 innings. It was 8 games when he was like a late season call-up. But here are some other interesting stats to look at. He's given up fewer home runs over 9 innings than the league average. The league average strikeouts is 9 per 10. He's at 13. Obviously, there's talk about like the weak division he's played in. Well, when he became a full-time starter in 2014, 3 central teams were in the top 10 of offenses: the Tigers, Royals, and White Sox. Plus, he still had to face notorious offenses like the Yankees and Red Sox. Also, the Blue Jays, the Orioles, and the Angels also had top 10 offenses that year. And for someone finally being an everyday starter, he definitely struggled. I will give you that. He struggled with command, and that really killed him. As for the Royals, they were literally in the World Series. 2015, the Royals won the World Series, and through 2015 to 2019, more than half of the top offenses were in the AL. And I think some of them were definitely from the AL Central, and the only change from the AL Central was going from the Tigers and Royals to the Indians and White Sox. So that's for the he played in a weak division talk. But so he was really good, start out 19 and then struggled when he got to the NL in after the break. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say, because that is part of my argument. However, I know that it can also come off as a weak argument because you can't just base a pitcher's kind of talents off of how shitty the rest of the other teams are in the division. Like, it's not fair to ignore what he did. At the same time, I feel like it just has to be brought up a little bit because he was terrible for the Reds when he came over in 2019. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and say that if Bauer was in any other division, he would have had a 3+ ERA. Like I still think if he was in a different division, he would have had a low ERA. I just think in a shortened season, when you're only playing that one division, it is something that's talked about. People gave him shit for winning the Cy Young for that exact reason. But again, I don't think it's something you can completely hold against him. You brought up some numbers, which I didn't fully know about. I know his strikeout numbers are insanely high. I will admit I'm not super, super big into going completely deep because baseball is insane with the amount of stats it has. You can get lost back there forever, and trying to understand all of them is extremely difficult. So my thing is a lot of just what I've seen him do over his career. And I know the guy is talented. I'm not going to take away any of that. My question is, though, he's only had a sub ERA twice in his entire career. So if you put him up against any guy, the way I look at it is if you put him up against any guys in the rotation, is he better than any of the Dodgers? And you could absolutely argue he is, because May is still growing as a pitcher. Urias, same thing, still growing as a pitcher. Gonsolin, and we don't exactly know what's going to happen with Price just yet. So with all of that said, could he be better? Yes. At the same time, though, if you're taking a 1-year deal, maybe it's not a big deal, but then you have to look at the long term. If you go long term with him, my question is, does that now affect re-signing Buehler, Seager, Bellinger down the line? Are we now putting money into Bauer when we already have pitchers who could probably get the job done, maybe not be as good, but are more than capable of giving us what we need and saving us money in Gonsolin, May, Urias, Buehler? That's kind of where I run into it. And then you look, you still have Kershaw. We still talk about Josiah Gray coming up, our number one prospect, getting time pitching. So a lot of it for me is just, first off, I'm not a fan of the guy because of his personality. I'll admit that right here. I don't know how well that would fit in the organization with the Dodgers. We saw, obviously, I'm not going to compare him to other players that they've had issues with in the past. I just wonder how something like that would go in our organization, because we've seen how kind of sometimes players like that can be a problem in LA. But I really think my biggest thing for me is, what are we giving up in order to bring him here? Does it mean we can't afford to re-sign Seager? Does it mean we are now stunting the development for a couple of our younger pitchers for another year or two when they clearly need the development? That's my bigger thing, is how much the Dodgers are going to have to pay him. Is he really worth paying him all of that money to bring over, when in my mind, I think we have what can get the job done with the guys we have. So I don't know. I don't know.
See, I don't look at the money because that's not my job. It's on them to figure it out, and they can figure it out. Money shouldn't be an option here
It
for the
shouldn't.
Dodgers.
No, it shouldn't.
If the Yankees are able to spend all this money, then you should be able to do so as well. As far as the stunting the development, there's really only Gray, if we're being honest. That's actually really close. Gonsolin's probably long for the bullpen anyway. So really, it's just May and Urias trying to figure out what to do there. David Price, I don't know. He looked good in spring training, but is he better than Bauer? No, he's not.
No. And here's my thing with Price. I've told you this before. Maybe Price ends up in the bullpen, and then you have him as a bullpen arm. And then, I mean, I don't know what the Dodgers have talked to Price about any of that, but when it comes to replacing Price, that I'm sure there is something you could do with him, because he is not better than Trevor Bauer. So my thought was, maybe do they do something and take, because you mentioned Gonsolin to the bullpen. That makes a lot of sense. Does that maybe happen with Price if they go after Bauer, or do they actually just try to find a way and trade Price elsewhere? Because I don't know what, they have so many starters that I just don't know what they're going to do.
Well, it's always good to have a few just in case someone gets injured.
Yeah.
So I can see them holding on to him or putting him in the bullpen, and then him and Gonsolin could take someone's spot should someone get hurt. But you mentioned, is Bauer worth the money? Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of money he's looking for. I assume it's probably pretty high. But Greinke makes $35 million. We mentioned David Price; he's making $32. He's way better than both of them. Chris Sale makes $30, but he's completely broken at this point. He's been better than Patrick Corbin. He's making like $26. So is he worth the $30+ million? Well, according to him, trending in the right direction, and what the market has set, yeah, he's worth 30 plus million. Every year, the value of the dollar goes up, so thus the player's contract will go up. So whether we agree or not that he's worth 30 million, the market says he is.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, when I say I care about money, I don't actually care about the money. I care about the money from the business aspect, that I worry the Dodgers will use it as an excuse to not re-sign someone like Buehler, Bellinger, or Seager. I do not think it should be an issue. They could easily re-sign all three of those players, bring on Bauer. Yeah, so the money for me isn't an issue. I'm just, from the business aspect, I could 100% see the Dodgers using that as a reason that if they signed, even if it's not.
I just want to say that this isn't going to happen. I'm just making a case for him. That's all.
Yeah, I don't see him ending up in LA unless he does do the 1 year deal. If that happens, if he wants a 1 or 2 year deal, I could absolutely see that actually happening. Long term, I don't know if it'll happen, but you never know. Like I said, my personal opinion aside, he's a great player. I think if he came to the team, you would see what happened. I would guarantee that the Dodgers are talking to players ahead of time. I don't think they would put any player in a situation to be uncomfortable or anything like that. So at the end of the day, I kind of just have to stick by what I usually do. And that's all we can do as a fan, and trust the front office that what they're doing is the best for the team and going to either help us win. And that's really all. I mean, that's what I care about. People have their opinions on Bauer.
I get his personality is a big issue. My thing is, if Kershaw can get along with Bumgarner, I don't see why he can't get along with Trevor Bauer, unless Bauer says something, I don't know, about his wife or something. But I don't think he'd do that. So I don't know. It just seems like we might not like the guy's attitude, but I actually enjoy watching him pitch on the mound. He has a swagger of somebody who's, better than he is, but I like it. I mean, he goes out there, he does his little strut, his little Vince McMahon, Conor McGregor strut, and he stares down pitchers. He talks shit. He looks like Bueller. I think it's fun. I have zero issue with it. Yeah, he's competitive.
I like that. I'm all there for that. I think he's an interesting pitcher to watch. He brings a different aspect to the game that the game kind of needs. Like with his vlog, you're seeing a lot of different stuff. If we're being honest here, I will say, and I'm probably guilty of this, is I think the media has done a fantastic job of blowing up some of the shit he's done a lot more than maybe it deserves to be blown up. I think it's because he is so polarizing on Twitter, and there's not really another MLB athlete like that. MLB players are usually
he puts himself in that
quiet
position because he talks so much.
Yeah, like for example, you see it in all different sports. I mean, look at Juju from the Steelers is just getting absolutely destroyed right now because of what he's done on TikTok recently, and all the shit talking, dancing on other teams' logos, being disrespectful. But people like it.
He got leveled yesterday. Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, that's bad. There's so many TikToks going around making fun of him. But at the same time, it's good.
I have no problem with him.
It's good for the
doing
sport.
TikToks and dancing. Yes, it's fun.
I don't either.
Let him have it.
So I think what has happened with the Bauer situation is, I think, first of all, Bauer's just kind of knowingly taken things a little too far. Like there's times where he could have just been like, okay, I'm not going to respond and not make this worse. And I think sometimes he doesn't care. I don't think he cares what anyone's opinion is about him. And I think the media has done, because he had such a strong 2020, the media has done such a great job of giving him even more attention when he does stupid stuff, that I think it kind of gets blown up in fans' faces so much that you get to a point where you're just annoyed by it and don't want to hear about it anymore.
That's fair. And I think if you were to ask him, he'd probably be a self-proclaimed douchebag. I think
he seems like the kind of person that would admit to it. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't pull any punches. He will admit that, like, he knows people don't like him, and like I fully respect that he has I don't give a fuck attitude. But my only question is, I don't want it to be a problem in the organization. And I've seen sometimes how he responds to fans after games. I just don't want it to turn into kind of like a whole, the fans hate you based on what you say, kind of like what happened with the whole Grandal thing, when Grandal basically said, I don't care if I'm playing like shit. It bothers you guys more than me. I just don't really want another situation like that, because it sucks as a fan when you don't like a player like that. So my biggest thing is, if he comes to LA, just don't piss anybody off and we'll be like, don't piss anybody off for unnecessary reasons. I don't give a shit if he pisses off like
tough.
People. Well, yeah, but I think it's who he is. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm going to be like angry if the Dodgers sign him. If he's on the team, I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but we'll just have to see what happens. Again, I don't think it'll happen, but at the end of the day, we're just gonna have to see what the Dodgers do. Whether it happens, we don't know. Bauer has not given basically any type of hint what team he's going to. He's doing videos on.
He's going to all 30 teams. You didn't know?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's kind of what's happening. He's going on YouTube and making videos of like the top 5 fan bases who's recruiting him, which I think is just a typical Bauer move. Like, let me get your attention and kind of irritate the fan bases, because I guarantee he's not going to go to a team based on the team that's recruiting him. He's going to go where the money is, because I don't think he has ever held back the fact that he wants his money. So we'll see what happens. But on to the next stuff, our MLB news. I have to be honest, I'm going to let you start with this one because I really don't know how I feel about it. I'm back and forth. So I'm going to have you start about it, and then I'm going to play off of you because I really don't know what to think.
I don't have the exact quote, but it's basically Don Mattingly talking about how baseball's boring and the shift should be banned or whatever. So I want to start this by saying Mattingly saying that he couldn't watch the rest of the playoffs after his team's eliminated sounds like sour grapes to me. Because I don't think there's a reasonable person who would say that this year's playoffs were boring, because they weren't boring at all.
Mattingly's pissed though after all his like failures in the playoffs with the Dodgers. He was pissed, so I'm sure he's always been a little salty towards the Dodgers, I think.
Yeah, well, he's a Yankee, so fuck him.
Yeah.
So I mean, there were a lot of good games in both leagues. And as far as banning goes, should the game really punish strategy for bad players and reward bad players or help them out? Like, I don't think any good players are having issues. Like Trout, Betts, Acuna Jr., Soto, are they really having trouble with the shift? Doesn't seem like it. I know like some pitchers hate it, but it helps them more times than it hurts them, if we're being honest. So watching them get frustrated because one hit went to where the shift was, it's a little irritating. I'm not going to lie to you. How are some ways that you can make baseball more fun?
That part, I don't know if there's anything changing to the game that has to be done. For me, it's really just the way that MLB runs themselves and the way they market their players. I think the game is fun when you allow the players to be themselves. Look at the NBA. The NFL is slowly coming around. For the longest time, everyone knew of them as the no fun league. They are slowly coming around, letting players do choreographed kind of celebrations in the end zone. And it might piss some people off. It'll piss the traditional off, but it's fun. It's entertaining to watch it. And I think the game of baseball itself doesn't have to change. I think it's just how we go about promoting the sport and allowing players to do the things that they want to do. Like this whole, you can't have certain colors on your cleats unless they match the original cleat color from that company or your team's colors, is the most ridiculous thing to me in the entire world. Like, why does it matter? Players Weekend is always so much fun, not because the jerseys are awful, MLB screws that up, but it's fun to see the players personalize everything and go out there with their personalized bats. I understand maybe not wanting to allow a player to customize a bat, because maybe that can get tricky for a pitcher depending on what's going on. Stuff like that I get. You don't want to start messing with all that, gloves for pitchers. But I don't know if the sport needs changing as much as the people who run it and how we go about promoting it and trying to get the youth involved, because I think that's where our biggest kind of fallback is in the sport.
It's just let them have fun. Like, do you see how much fun like the Taiwanese players have pimping home runs, or the Japanese or Korean players, or this players from Spanish-speaking countries who play with so much heart and passion? They're having fun playing the game they love. They're enjoying it. Just let them. Tim Anderson in the MLB right now, just let them go out, pimp home runs, have fun. If it's a pitcher striking out someone in a big spot, let them stare down the batter. I had zero issue with Lopez striking out Peterson in a big spot and just staring Peterson down. Peterson didn't say anything about it. He just nodded his head like, okay. And then the Dodgers got their comeuppance when Bellinger hit a game-winning home run off of him. Just let things happen. Let players have fun. Let players be themselves. Lindor is super smiley, always having fun. love watching him play baseball. Just allow players to be themselves, and I don't think the game would have an issue.
Yeah, I think it's the issue to me is media and the people who run it. I'm all like, fans are always going to bitch. We have a right as fans. We do it on Twitter. But the fact that MLB is so hard in wanting to yell, like get on players and fine them for this stuff, and the media is kind of just there backing it up a little bit, or like you have stupid things coming out about like Tatis hitting that grand slam, and instead of there being a ton of articles as to like, this is stupid, stop making players feel this way, it's always, well, what should we do about the unwritten rules? And it's like, why is there still a question? Just get rid of them. That's what should be done. We don't need to keep having this conversation. And I really believe that that's what would change baseball. The sport itself is never going to be for everybody. It is a slow sport, right, but it's a fun sport if you truly understand how the game works.
Yeah. So there was
I've always thought baseball's for smart people. So as anyone that tells me they don't like baseball, I question your intelligence if you tell me you don't like baseball.
The same people that tell me they don't like watching baseball are like the same people that watch golf or NASCAR, and I'm just like, okay.
But what if you watch all three?
Like, hey, to each their.
Hey, if you watch all three, then by all means. But if you're shitting on the Major League Baseball and saying, "Oh, but I like watching golf," and I'm just like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, no,
I'll play golf, but I'm not about to watch it.
Yeah, I don't. I'm all for people, everyone watching it. Just stop telling me baseball's boring, because I'm tired of it. To me, you just aren't understanding it, and maybe that's probably how golf people feel about people who don't like it, which is fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. Just fine. Sure. I don't care. I just don't want to hear any NASCAR person tell me they think I'm dumb because I don't like NASCAR. Because let's be real, driving a car is very, very hard, but I think watching it, you pretty much get the gist watching it. So
right,
yeah,
I completely understand how difficult it is driving. Well, I don't know, 200 miles an hour in a racetrack, but just watching it, I'm like, oh, look, they're driving in a circle.
Oh yeah, it's hard as hell what they're doing. Those are some athletes, but
so I did see some things on
different. It's sports for different people.
I did see some things on Reddit where they think some changes could be made. So they were talking about lowering the mound or pushing it back so it'd make it easier for the hitter and the offense, so you'll get more offense, which is quote unquote more fun. However, I have seen a lot of fans complain that there's too many home runs and too many strikeouts. So maybe lowering the mound or pushing it back would make it so that players don't strike out as much. As far as the home run goes, maybe they should deaden the ball, because I mean there was all this talk like in 2017 that the MLB had like doctored the baseball and it made it fly over the place. So if they deaden it a bit, maybe the home runs would go down. The strikeouts would definitely go down. So those were some things that they were mentioning on Reddit.
Yeah, my biggest thing is just let players be themselves, and I guarantee you MLB will head in a much better direction than it is currently in. It's really not that difficult. MLB, get it together. You put out this whole thing that let the kids play, so let's let the kids play. On to our next couple things. We are running out of
I was gonna say real quick before you move on. There was something I did want to say. This is nothing against Acuna Jr., Soto, or Tatis, but they really have like kind of messed with what people see prospects as, because not every prospect can be to that level right away. Sometimes it might take some people longer. So them being great at 19, 20 years old, now people are like, oh, Joe Adell's not going to be on the Major League roster. Maybe he's a bust. And I'm like, bro, he's 22. Calm down. And then there's other people like, oh, Gavin Lux has sucked. Yes, he has. He's 23. Let's relax a little bit here. Not every player can be Tatis Jr., Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr. Like, that's not possible. So I think fans need to bring their expectations down a little bit, because for the most part, majority of the time, it takes players some time. Those players are just very special. That's all.
I'm just going to throw this out there that it was extremely random. So I'm assuming that goes back to your Bauer thing that we were talking about.
Did a little bit.
So that makes sense. Okay.
But I don't remember how it tied in. That's the only thing.
Well, because you had said
but
Bauer.
It was leading to that.
You said Bauer struggled his first couple of years, and then as he got older, he got better. So it was, I think that's okay. Okay. So, all right. On to the next thing. Great news here. It's about damn time, but MLB announced last week that they would finally recognize the Negro League players as big league talent. So all the players from 1920 to 1948 will now finally have their names and accomplishments acknowledged when talking about big league records and the history of MLB. So better late than never, should have been done a long time ago, but it's good that they're finally being recognized for their talent, because there were a lot of players in the Negro Leagues who would have been better than players in MLB who just didn't ever get the chance because they were Black. So it's time to give them. It's time to give them credit where it's due.
A lot of those Negro League players would have been in the MLB had MLB allowed it.
Yeah. So
but they were racist.
I read something that said when Jackie Robinson got signed by the Dodgers, he wasn't even a top 20 player in the Negro Leagues at the time. So just to give you an idea, there was a lot of talent and they weren't recognized for it. So I know there's some fans that are upset by this, but you're gonna have to get over it because it was a long time coming and needed to happen. Last couple things, there's been a couple signings around baseball. Michael Wacha signed a 1-year, $3 million contract with the Rays. Mike Zunino also returned to the Rays on a 1-year, $3 million contract. And then Anthony DeScalfini signed a 1-year, $6 million contract with the Giants. And then last but not least, we want to give a big congratulations to Howie Kendrick on a 15-year career in the big leagues. He announced his retirement yesterday. He played for the Dodgers in 2015, 2016, and ruined our season in 2019. So, but hey, he also ruined the Astros season. It's all good, Howie. We all appreciate what you did. We got our World Series this year, so It's all good. But
and like Howie wasn't he's not a Hall of Famer, but he was a pretty solid player his whole career. Really good hitter,
and he's also just a really nice dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's also a good guy. So congrats to him and his family, and hopefully he enjoys it. I would not be surprised to see him back in the league in some capacity because he seems to be very loved everywhere he goes. But other than that, that was really all we had for this week. We got Christmas on Friday, so I think, right? It's on Friday? I don't know. I can't even keep up with the days anymore, what day it is. But outside of that, we hope everyone has a great Christmas. I've got nothing else to touch on. Do you?
No.
Okay. So with that said, make sure you guys follow us on social. You can find us everywhere. We're on TikTok now, at Dodger Yard, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find my personal at Randy_Radcliffe.
And you can find my personal at Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
And if you haven't, please do us a favor and drop a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And other than that, we appreciate you guys and hope you have a good rest of your night, morning, afternoon, weekend, whatever it is. And we will catch you next week. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.